audience loves these lighthearted, fun, but sometimes edgy conversations about what's happening in politics and in your world of law. So thank you so much for tuning in today, everyone. We look forward to seeing you again next time. Again, I am your host, Rachel Weaver, and we will see you next time.
This has been a NowMedia Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.
Hi, my name is Todd Wall, and welcome to Communication Breakthrough. You know, as business leaders and business owners, we all dream of that business that's scaling, and growing, getting to that revenue and the margin that we're actually looking for. But in order to do that, we have to bring our team along. And in order to bring our team along, we have to have meetings, you know, that dreaded meetings, the thing you see on your calendar that no one likes, because here's the problem. An ineffective meeting can be the very thing that breaks the chain and breaks the effectiveness chain, so that it really kills all the connection between you, your team, and your customer. It can be that very thing that really sucks the life out of your business. But on the flip side, it can be the thing that brings life. It can bring purpose. It can bring hope. It can bring direction. And really, as I've learned after 30 years in broadcasting and personal development, it can be that very thing that brings life and excitement and really the motion that you're looking for as a business owner. Join us today as we interview and we talk through a panel of experts, really with the focus on that problem of how do we get rid of these ineffective meetings so that we remove the fear of the meeting and can bring excitement to that moment, because we need to connect with our team. It's our team that connects with our customer. If we lose the connection with our customer, we lose our business. So join me in this moment as we talk to our experts, as we unlock this code for how to create effective meetings. Intentional communication creates intentional results. That's how we get the breakthrough that you're looking for. Let's do this together. Let's go.
Hi, folks. Robert Quigley here, America's Independent, Washington, D.C. We're on the road to the White House. Today, we're going to talk about Biden's health. Biden has dementia. Team America needs real leadership, not party puppets. His health only gets much worse as time goes by. Biden falls up steps. His usurpers hold his hand to walk across stages. The baby ladder is needed to reach Air Force One through the luggage department. He took $50 million in bribes with his heroin and cocaine-addicted son, who did these drugs in the White House. Biden's too old, too corrupt, and has been in D.C. far too long, 44 years. The extreme left, people who are unwelcome in many houses, control the government. Go to robertquigleyforpresident.com, find the donor box, donate what you can. Team America needs your change. Join our team. Together, we make America work for everybody.
Paid for and approved by the Robert Quigley for President campaign.
Welcome back, everybody, to Communication Breakthrough, where we believe that intentional communication will lead to the breakthrough that you're looking for in both your business and your life. Today's problem we've got to solve is ineffective meetings. An ineffective meeting can be just like a ton of weight on your shoulders. It's sinking you to the bottom of the ocean. Or, I mean, it can just derail everything. It can just feel like it's just sucking the life out of both you and your team. And that will ultimately affect your bottom line as it engages with the customer. Having an effective meeting is the linchpin of that communication chain from beginning to end. Today, I'm bringing in a very, very good friend of mine and a very valuable expert on this, Daniel Hammond, business interrogation. Daniel, that's because you actually were an interrogator. So Daniel, tell us, fill the audience in on this extraordinary history you have, both of as an actual professional military interrogator, but also as we're looking at these meetings as as a professional, not meeting planner, because that person does a wedding. But tell us about this, Daniel. Give us your certifications. Brag on yourself for me.
My favorite thing to do. Thank you so much. But seriously, one of the things that, as Todd said, I am an interrogation instructor in the military. I did that for 6 years as in the military reserves. I have real world interrogation experience. Managing an interrogation is like leading a good meeting in a lot of ways. You also have to make sure that the people you're talking to don't pick up pens to use as weapons against you. So they're a little more intense, and you have to be very intentional that they go well. But from there, I also got into corporate life. One of my roles in corporate space was facilitating cyber exercises, which are disasters, simulated disasters for leadership teams, right? What would it be like if you were having your worst cyber day? And helping you think through the decisions you'd have to make. Effectively, they're fire drills for networks. And part of that is you have to plan ahead, both with interrogations and with cyber exercises. You need to come prepared, knowing exactly what are we here for and staying on track, because it doesn't help if you're asking about things that are irrelevant to your objective.
And you actually got that certification with the Secretary of Treasury. Is that what it was?
Yes, my biggest exercise was an exercise for the financial services industry involving most of the big banks, and the Secretary of the Treasury also dropped in for a bit. So
gotcha. Yeah. So you've got the skins on the wall. That we're gonna have such a great conversation on this. First, let's talk about meetings that go wrong. What is the problem we're really trying to solve here? What's it really at risk when a meeting is just horrendous, ineffective, it just doesn't go anywhere? What's really at risk there?
Yeah, I would say, well, first of all, if the meeting it doesn't go well, you're wrecking the morale. You're hurting your credibility. If I'm invited to a meeting that I have it doesn't matter to me at all what decisions are made. Nobody asks for my opinion, or nobody cares to hear my opinion. When I leave that meeting, I'm going to probably have a bit of resentment. So that's one of the things where you need to consider, what are we trying to accomplish during this meeting? Who have we invited? What do we hope to get from those people? And have an agenda sent out ahead of time so people can be prepared to contribute what you need them to contribute.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That clear purpose, clear agenda, and we're going to get real specific on the how. But if they don't nail down that how and they don't build out that structure, I mean, like you said, it affects morale. It's like it could just, like I said earlier, it can suck the life out of you. So let's talk on the flip side. If we really nail this structure and we really nail down the elements that need to go into a good meeting, what can go right? What's the real benefit of what's the happily ever after if I really know how to build a great meeting?
Yeah, thanks. I think, first of all, when you show up prepared and you've done your, as we call it in the military interrogation world, your planning and preparation, you have thought through the information that you would like to get from the people who are contributing in the meeting, then you can advance things much faster, and it's way more interactive. If you're trying to do things by email, which sometimes email is the right thing, don't even create a meeting if you can solve the problem by email. But if you decide we need a meeting, we need the contributions of the big brains in the room, right? You've got a bunch of talented people working for you. If you really value their opinions and they're going to contribute to your success, then tee up that conversation and make sure you're keeping it in line. Sometimes people will hijack the conversation for their side agendas. You've got to bring it back, always bring it back to the agenda. You can acknowledge that needs to be a conversation, but it's not on today's agenda for this particular meeting. I think those will get you many steps closer to being productive. And again, I think the best meetings are the ones that finish early, right? Because you've accomplished all your goals and there's nothing else to do, and you can give people back some of their time. We're all busy, and we've got, I don't know anybody that's paying people to not be busy these days, right?
I love that. So, I mean, one, you're a meeting that goes right, you win more time back because time is of the essence. So it empowers the person, like you mentioned before, moves us closer to the objective. Well, what other advantages of why? I mean, why should we be motivated to put this extra effort into this meeting instead of just, scheduling and putting on the calendar? Why should we be motivated?
I think, again, if I can set up my team for success and let them know what the expectations are, then meetings should flow, and they should flow well. There can be a time for new agenda items potentially. Let's say it's a weekly meeting with your team. You want to check in. Let them know what's expected of them. What do you want to be briefed on? And how much time do they have to give you that briefing? Do they need to have slides prepared? Or do they just show up and say, hey, this is my piece? All of those expectations, again, it might be you're in front of your boss pitching a new project. And so, you're not going to go into that meeting unprepared. You should be equally prepared to give good direction to your subordinates, whether it's a weekly meeting. If it's a weekly meeting, having the discipline to have that good structure around it will cause it just to flow week after week. People will come in, they'll brief their piece, they'll move on, and it'll just flow. I think flow state is super important for meetings.
That does sound really valuable. Just I want to put this extra effort in so we can get to this flow state. So it doesn't feel like this meeting is an interruption of my entire day, an interruption of everything I was already trying to accomplish. So that flow state, the morale, all these benefits. Is there anything else? What's another reason why I'd want to give this extra effort? Because I want to give a minimal effort, to get maximum results. So why would I want to do this? Let's talk to the younger generation. Why would a younger generation want to give all this effort to be a manager and come up with a good, effective meeting? Why would the younger generation want to do this? They have to have that sense of meaning and reality. So why would they want to do it?
Yeah, I think it's going to save you time in the long run. When I set those expectations. And it's all, the expectations that I might have 3 or 4 different meeting types. And I tell them, this is the kind of meeting this is. This is a brainstorming meeting. This is a project update meeting. When I set those expectations, people will come in and they'll be ready. You're losing your people if they're in a meeting with you and they're checking email, looking at Instagram. If it's a virtual meeting and their cameras are off, that I would set the expectation of everybody invited to this meeting is important. We need to see you. We need to interact with you. And so show up as if you were showing up to an in-person meeting.
Man, Daniel, I cannot wait to get tactical. So everybody, I would like everybody to stick with us after this break. I've got my pen to be able to threaten Daniel with in his interrogation. So stick with us after this break. Let's get really tactical on how to craft the different types of effective meetings so that they don't go wrong and blow up on you. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the U.S. Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the U.S. Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Welcome back, everybody. And again, I've got Daniel Hammond, professional interrogator, master facilitator. He's our expert today, and we're getting tactical on how to craft the ideal meeting so that it does not suck the life out of us. Hey, Daniel, I do want to share, I had a meeting earlier today, and my cat comes into my office and he jumps up on my desk. And all of a sudden, I'm having this meeting with someone, and her tail is right in between the camera. And I reach up to grab her and pull her off, and she starts clawing and scratching me. And I go to set her down, and my chair zooms out from under me. And all of a sudden, I'm like, "Did you see that?" I don't think that's quite the meeting that I was looking for.
Well, you need to be able to bounce back when things happen. Sometimes you'll be in a meeting and somebody's going to ask you a question. Maybe it's your boss, and you're going to be like, I have no idea what that even is, right? And so, the ability to respond and set expectations with your team so that when they don't have the answer for you, hey, just take ownership. I'm not sure what that is. And I don't want to take up any more time in the meeting. If it's critical to the meeting, can you give me the 3,000-foot view of what that is, just so I have the context? But you have to have a psychologically safe team, right? They've got to be comfortable in sharing what's going on. So, if you're the kind of person when somebody says, "I've got a problem," you're like, another problem.
That's interesting. Psychologically safe team. So let's unpack that real quick. What does that mean to have a psychologically safe team, and how do you create that environment?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is you care about your people and you will not punish them for saying things that you don't want to hear. Right? I think that's and bureaucracies are a fantastic place, but there's plenty of corporate environments where people know that the things are going on that are wrong, but they also know if I say something, my boss is going to punish me for that, or his boss is going to punish me, or his boss's boss's boss is going to, punish us. So, there are things that you should want to hear. I mean, if you should encourage people to give you bad news, because then if they see something, they'll say something, right? And I think that's how you mitigate risk, is you get ahead of it. And to do that, do you want to be dragging this stuff out of them in a meeting, or do you want them to be going, oh, this is something I know my boss is going to want to know about, so let me send them an email so they're aware, right? No boss wants to be blindsided, right?
So how do you create that environment?
You've got to create trust. I think, very similar to what I used to do in the interrogation world, is you have to convince the people in front of you that you have their interest. That maybe they did some things that they shouldn't have done, but it's better to get it out in the open now and deal with it than to have it come out later. And so, you can set those expectations, ask them, hey, what's going on? And every time I ask you what's going on, let me know if you have any concerns, right? Don't just tell me all the great things you're doing, but let me know, hey, this project might not get done on time. And let me know 3 weeks out, not 2 hours before it's due, because, we've got to manage customer expectations. That's, part of one of the other companies I run is customer driven leadership. And it's all about creating what we call high performance teamwork, which is where not only do I know what my responsibilities are, but I know what everybody else's responsibilities are. And we can start working in a way where we're better integrated and better using each person's gifts and talents, and also being plugged into what are we actually trying to deliver to our internal or external client.
I love that. The developing of that transparency level, that comes from the leadership. That comes from the leader. And leadership transparency and creating that safe space builds the trust that ultimately is necessary. So let's talk basic meeting structure just briefly.
Sure.
Of all the elements that every meeting needs to have, from the clear direction to roles. I remember learning these things in school and then getting in the real world and no one ever executing on this. And I'm like, I felt lost. So what are these basic elements that every great meeting needs to have?
Yeah, thanks. I would also just like to say, sort of like the story you shared about falling out of the chair earlier today, one of the things that a leader can do to build that trust is to admit when they've done something wrong in front of the team, right? When you show that vulnerability, you let them know, hey, it's okay to make mistakes here. We're just going to fix them and move forward. On the structure, I think there's a lot of things you can do, right? It depends on how important the meeting is. So, for example, in a cyber exercise, one of the most important things we need to catch the key tasks, the key things that we call them lessons learned, right? So that means I might need note takers in the room, probably more than one, because somebody's going to catch something that someone else didn't catch, right? So you can often assign roles to your team. You can have somebody that's kind of a time management person, right? Hey, this is the agenda. This is how much time we have for each section. Hey, Susie, can you make sure that we're staying on track? Can you let us know when we only have 1 minute left on a topic by doing X, Y, or Z? Just that kind of accountability, having somebody at the end kind of grade, did we deliver what we said we were going to deliver in this meeting before you dismiss it, right? Make sure that there's not something that got glossed over that was important. So you're making sure that, and you can do that by, when everybody has a role, they're also making sure we're doing what we're supposed to do. We're doing it efficiently and effectively. And at the end, it becomes second nature. You can start holding each other accountable and get through the meetings just as, with maximum efficiency.
For building that purpose and that agenda, is there a best practice for that? Does the leader just, do you run point on that, or do you get opinions from other people on what that needs to be?
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on the industry you're in. I think one of the other things that matters a lot is, people like to receive information in different ways. So, for example, I'm DISC certified. So knowing that I'm a D, I just want the high view and what I need to be worried about. So if you can just, give me the facts and just the facts, that's great. But there are other people who are more analytical and they need the details. They're like, okay, after step 36B, what do we do? Then there's also people who are more social, right? And you're going to need to maybe check in with each other. Hey, what good things have been happening this week in your world before you get into the nitty gritty of the meeting? So knowing each other's communication styles really helps you channel the information to the people who need it in the right format. I think that is also a really good tool to maximize efficiency for meetings.
That's extremely valuable and extremely nuanced as well. That comes into the art of leadership. So, but then the agenda in forming that also goes into the types of meetings. You said earlier there's 3 types of meetings that you structure. What are those 3 types of meetings?
Well, effectively, there's more types than that. It would depend on what your business is, but a lot of times you'll just have kind of a check-in meeting, right? That could be your weekly manager subordinate meetings. There could be another type of check-in meeting is more personal or maybe career focused. So maybe that's a skip level meeting with your boss's boss. Go into those prepared to talk about what you're doing and delivering for the team, but also what your hopes and aspirations are, and potentially also what your concerns are. I think the more prepared people are to go into meetings. So, if you do a weekly manager employee meeting, you want it to be the same every time, right? We're going to go through the agenda points. It's going to flow. There's not going to be any wasted time. We're not going to get sidetracked on project stuff. Just in this meeting, all I need to know is, are we red, yellow, or green on this project? If you're yellow, what's your concern? If you're red, what's going on? And you've got 2 minutes, right? Setting those expectations. Other types are maybe brainstorming. Like I used to deliver workshops, and I'd have a bunch of senior executives come in, and we're like going to transform some part of the business. And it's like, okay, if we go from this position to this position, things are going to change in how we do things here. I need everybody's opinion of how can we easily morph in from solution A to solution B. What's going to disrupt what you are responsible for, and how can you help us make sure that doesn't happen? So again, whatever that meeting is, just sticking to the agenda and letting everybody know what kind of meeting that is. That may be developing, specific types of meetings for your company, right? We're going to have a brainstorming meeting. We're going to have a project update meeting. We're going to have a personal check-in on, how are you doing within the company? How can I better support you? Type manager employee meeting. Even the meetings with 2 people is as important as the meetings. You don't want to be checking your email while the employee is telling you about all their home problems, right? It just shows that, he doesn't really care. He's just checking a box so he can tell his manager he did everything he was supposed to do, right?
Daniel, thank you so much for this time and this perspective on these types of meetings, how to build this trust, and just walking us through this basic level of important facets that so many people just leave on the sidelines. But if we can put these in play, will have so much more power. How can people find you and your company to be able to work with you?
Sure. I am available. My websites are businessinterrogation.com and customerdrivenleadership.co.
Fantastic. Daniel, thank you so much for this time. I love getting to talk to you anytime I get to.
My pleasure.
All right, Daniel, you are in our speed round. It is time now. How do you build trust with a team to move them from stubborn to superpowered? You're on the clock. Go.
Yeah, thanks. First thing I would say is you have to connect with each and every team member. You have to find out what's important to them. It's the same thing I did as an interrogator. Is the first step is what matters to this person, not as a team, right, but as an individual. What do they care about? Why do they work for you? Figure out the motivation, right? So that you can look for opportunities for them. How do they want to grow? I love asking them that. How can I support your career growth in our company? Because you taking interest in them will move the two of you much closer. I think the next thing I would do is invest in some sort of an assessment tool so that you better understand your communication styles or personality types or special gifts and talents. There's a lot of options out there. But when you understand each other at a deeper level by having a common tool to kind of sort each other out with, it will improve communication. And then the other thing is ask them, what do you love about what you do, and what would you do differently? You know, one of my favorite questions is, if I didn't tell you how to do your job, how would you do your job? I think that's a great question to get their input, and they probably got some good ideas that can help you increase efficiency. All of those things together. And then of course don't let problems grow. So, if employee A has a problem with employee B, have some kind of escalation so that they can let you know about it. And then you've got to work with the two employees to resolve whatever is creating that friction, so that the team can just grow in where each person knows what the gifts and talents of the other members of the team are, and everybody is working in their areas of genius. That is a high performing team.
Beautiful, brother. That was fantastic. Trust builds a superpower. I love that. Man, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
All right, everybody, stick with us. We got more tactical information right after this break. Don't go anywhere. Here we come.
Are you nearly maxed out on your credit cards? It doesn't matter if you're using your credit cards for fun or to survive. At the end of the month, your statements come in, and you can either pay them or you can't. If you can't, late fees and interest rates get tacked on. And now you're struggling just to make the minimum payment due. Do you feel trapped? Am I talking to you? Good, because I personally researched some companies that can help you. They may be able to reduce your credit card balances by 50% and stop the late fees. If you qualify, please call our special debt hotline number right now for a complimentary free 5-minute consultation. Deal with your credit card problem now before it gets much worse, and put more money back in your pocket. Trust me, I've been there too. Call right now.
Call 855-993-2096 right now. That's 855-993-2096.
Welcome back, everybody. Today, we are talking about how to have effective meetings, but intentional communication will lead to the breakthrough that you are looking for. Today, in this segment here, I've got one of my compatriots, one of my fellow hosts from NowMedia, and Clara Capano. Clara, how are you doing?
I am fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing the stage with me today.
Absolutely. I love your show, Be Productive. And so how much greater is it to be productive than in a meeting?
Exactly.
But we've all had those meetings, like the death by meeting. So what is that? Let's talk about that problem. What does it look like to have a death by meeting?
Well, so many leaders, they think that having more meetings is going to be the answers to everything. And that's not always the case. It's the same thing about quality over quantity. And, having meetings that are engaging, inspiring, and really deliver value, because you want your people to leave that meeting, whether it's a meeting of just you and your client or to your sales team, you want people to leave feeling energized, feeling like it was purposeful, and that the time was well spent, and that when they leave there, they actually are better than when they came in. They have a plan of action, they have direction.
I love that sense of purpose and direction. So would you say that's the very first key that every effective meeting needs to have, is a sense of purpose and direction?
Yeah, I think so. I think, again, regardless of if you're just sitting down one-on-one with a client, because that's a meeting, or if you're conducting a sales meeting for your team, always starting off with the direction. So having an agenda, the meeting needs to start before the meeting starts. The leader needs to spend some time. You cannot just go in and just wing it. You've got to take time. If you're sitting down with a client one-on-one, do some due diligence beforehand. Again, lay it out. Think about what is the objective. Learn about them. Learn about where they're coming from so that you can walk in there again feeling more confident and that you have a trajectory. And the same thing when you're working with your team, have an agenda. Let them know the direction of the meeting, what's going to be covered, and what the proposed outcome is going to look like. Because people, again, it's that compass. They need to have a map and know the purpose and the meaning behind everything.
Absolutely. It's all about that compass, that where are we going? And then in this one little pocket of time, what are the steps we're going to take in order to get to at least this segment?
Exactly.
And so what are some things that you've seen in a let's talk about, so you've led some sales meetings before. And so what are some things that went wrong in those sales meetings?
Oh boy, we only have 12 minutes. I think one of the biggest problems that I had early on is the idea that it was my meeting and I went in there with, this is what I want to talk about today.
Yeah.
And so it was very just deliberate and just, this is the point, this is the point. And that it fell flat because it wasn't, again, engaging. So pulling back a little bit, doing some things where it was, again, asking questions, sometimes sharing videos and then letting them talk about it, in these items, bringing community into the team. So sometimes, again, letting them share with each other and realizing that the stage wasn't mine. The stage really was theirs. I was just there to sort of facilitate the flow of ideas and to facilitate the points, but that the meeting was really for them, not for me.
I absolutely love how you talk about community. So if that dynamic sales leader or that the leader of any sort that wants to be dynamic, they feel like they need to come and just be the hammer. If they could push the reset button and follow your advice, you'd say it's almost like make it interactive, make it a community centered, make it a dialogue instead of one-way communication.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, nobody wants to be told what to do.
No.
Nobody wants to go in there and feel like they're going to be berated or punished. They want to be excited for these meetings. So the more that we can make the takeaways there for them and thinking about, again, what is going to be valuable for them? What is it they need to learn? What are some of the skill sets we can help them with? So that, again, they leave there feeling empowered, feeling inspired, feeling like they know exactly what they need to do and how they're going to go out there and be able to get the results that they want.
I think another element of this, of avoiding being just the authoritarian in the room, is if we create a dialogue, there may be something in that room that unlocks everything. What about that spark of what's right around the corner, that belief of possibility that your team can actually create something great? And if you hired great people, why not listen to what they have to say?
Exactly. And it's so true. And going back to the point again, a good leader should be hiring the right people. And I'm always a firm believer that there's generally more talent on that side of the room than there is on my side of the room. And again, I want them to have ownership of these meetings. Again, I'll control the flow of it because I am the leader. So you have to control the flow of the information, but again, empowering them to speak up and to share because they have insights that you as the leader may not have.
What if that's the linchpin of this entire thing? What you just said, my role as the leader is to control the flow, not to have all the answers, but to be the one who's leading from point A to point B and make sure we're not going off on a sidetrack over here, but we're actually moving in that direction that we set out in the beginning and just facilitating the flow.
Exactly. It changes the whole tone of everything.
It does. It changes not only the tone of everything, but also the emotional strain on me as the leader. Because like you said, you felt like you had to be, even when you said that, you tensed up and you're like, I've got to be so strong. And I mean, whoa. To facilitate is to relax.
Exactly. And again, to prepare, one of the best ways you can prepare again for any interaction, whether the meeting is with just one person or but start with what are the questions I want to ask. Go in there with that question based rather than the telling based. And even when you're sitting down just with your clients, before jumping into business, ask a few human questions, learn about them. But we learn when we ask, we learn when we listen. We don't learn anything when we're telling people things. So some of the best meetings are going to come from a place of really engaging them and getting them talking. So one of the best ways you can prepare as a leader is, again, get the objective, but then prepare with what are the questions I can ask that will guide them to this objective.
One of the most common jokes people make is, couldn't this have just been an email? And if we have that approach where I'm just giving a bunch of information, yeah, that should have been an email. Exactly. But if you're guiding from point A to point B and you go into it with curiosity, that here's the problem that we have. Now together, how can we solve this together? That begins that process of asking open-ended questions, doesn't it?
And who isn't going to want to be a part of that meeting? People are going to want to come to that meeting because they feel valued. They feel heard. They feel like they're part of the solution. Even if they don't have anything to necessarily give in that particular meeting, they know that they're a part of the overall solution and the well-being of the group. And that's what we want, is we want people to be engaged in these meetings.
Yeah, I like that, the empowerment. So let's go just the equal and opposite of that. What takes away the power of that room? What is it that some leaders do that makes the person shrink in their chair?
Well, again, not listening to them, the leader coming in thinking that their way is the right way and it's the only way things are going to be done. So like you said, if I were to stand up and say, okay, well, this is the results that we want and this is what we're going to do. And Todd, I need you to go out there and do this. That's not impactful at all. Again, that's being told what to do. It's not having the interaction. And when you think about a team, if you break down the word team, together each accomplishes more. So let's have a team meeting where we can accomplish more when we come together.
I love that. One of the things where I'm leading my managers in right now is to not manage, but become leaders. And I say, to do that, I have to trust that the other people in the room are great. And it's a tossing of the ball back. And it's saying, but the lead, as a leader, I'm going to clarify, here's the outcome we're looking for, but here's the reality in where we're at. And there's a gap there. Now I toss the ball back to this person and say, how would you solve this?
Exactly.
How would you get to that? outcome.
And I love that. Oftentimes I would bring in other people on my team and say, you know what? The next meeting is yours. I want you to control it. Or again, I'll start it, but I want you to talk about this piece. So maybe your meeting has 3 segments. Bring somebody in. If I'm sitting down with a client, maybe we're talking about marketing or something. Well, I'm going to bring my marketing person in and say, you conduct this part of the meeting. So again, we're transferring and really being able to shed light on all the parties because again, we've hired the best and the brightest. Let's highlight everybody's skills. So again, it doesn't always just have to be your meeting. Hand it off and let them be integral parts to it.
Would this be a fair statement from what you're talking about? It's decreasing the formality, but increasing the humanity.
I think that's perfectly said.
I mean, because as I increase the humanity, then I'm opening up to more communication, more questions and possibility. And what solution might they actually come up with?
Yes.
Clara,
it always comes back to value. It always comes back to value.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Clara, thank you so much for this time. I mean, your show, Be Productive, had the honor of being a guest on there. And so it's an honor to have you here and share some of this insight because I love our interactions back and forth. I mean, the conclusions you just came to are absolutely valuable, increasing the humanity. So, hey, everybody, check out Clara's show, Be Productive. And by watching it, you will be productive. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
Hi, folks. Robert Quigley here, America's Independent, Washington, D.C. We're on the road to the White House. Today, who are my favorite presidents? Well, they're Teddy Roosevelt, Dwight Eisenhower, Jimmy Carter, and, of course, Andrew Jackson. Teddy Roosevelt was a great outdoorsman, so am I. Dwight Eisenhower, a war hero and a Republican president that showed that big government can do great things if managed properly. Jimmy Carter was very unpopular in his lifetime. However, he did show how great of a senior statesman he was post-presidency. Andrew Jackson, I love Andrew Jackson. Forget about the slavery stuff. He tells us that there's a great tension between the judicial branches of government and the executive and legislative branches. We will come back to this. Big government can be a force for good. These presidents tell us that there's a triumph for the ordinary man that will take America far. Career politicians are the wrong way to go. Join Team America. Go to robertquigleyforpresident.com. Donate what you can. And together, we will make America work for all of us.
Paid for and approved by the Robert Quigley for President campaign.
Welcome back, everyone. And, as I sit back and I think about everything that we learned today with, all the nuances of a lot of the psychology that can go into a meeting that Daniel presented us from his negotiator standpoint. And then I love how Clara really brought back the human element of ultimately it's that human connection that we're trying to create, both with our team, but then ultimately with our end customer. it's, as you think about it, it's real easy to make this really complicated. It's real easy to get overly nerdy in this scenario, but it does pay dividends. Because on the negative side, these meetings, they can be a waste of time. On the negative side, they can be a disruption of the momentum of these complex tasks that we're asking our team to do. And every break in that momentum is really a break in, like I said, momentum that can stop that complex task from being performed. But on the flip side, connection with our team and ultimately our customer is so necessary, and that's the lifeblood of what we do, but it's so critical in making that efficient and effective. I'd like to take a second to really share a little bit of a story of my background. I had 30 years in sports broadcasting with ESPN and Fox Sports, and there's a very interesting way of how they use meetings in that scenario, in that live television broadcast format, that I think really is effective in any day-to-day business, in any corporate environment, because it really sets the stage, not only to set the standard of what you're looking for so that your team can bring that excellence, but also so that they can be who they are in whatever that scenario is. They can be the artist in the moment that can really craft out what you're actually looking for. You can set the stage, and then they can be who you hired them to be in the first place. There's a lot of ways and a lot of functions for these meetings. So here's the background. So whether it was a World Series, a Super Bowl, World Cup, or, just a normal broadcast for like the Dallas Mavericks or the Texas Rangers, the same pattern forms before every single game. Before every game, the camera operators, they gather around the director, and the director will begin going through different scenarios that each camera operator needs to be aware of. He lays out the story of what the competitor that they're going to be facing. Here's the storyline that they're facing in this current situation, and here's the story points that we're going to be looking for. So he'll say, camera 3, if you see the coach doing X, Y, Z, be sure and shoot that for me. Get a shot of that and sell. They'll say, sell that to me. Or if in this scenario, they've got this star player, he can get kind of pouty. If he starts getting pouty on the bench or if things aren't going for him, sell that to me. So camera 4, be on the lookout for that type of scenario. If there's a foul and the ref does this, camera 1, I want you to do this. Camera 2, I want you to do that. And they lay out all of these different scenarios ahead of time, so that in the moment, the camera operator is going through the normal routine of here's shot composition, here's, keep the framing this way, and I'm looking over here, I'm looking at the players here, I'm looking at the whole situation. They can feel that whole environment, but in the back of their mind, they've got these pre-scripted moments that if this occurs, then they can do this. If this, then this. And this is the scenario that I really want to lay out for you, because it is so vital. If you as the leader of your organization, if you lay out these series of if this, then this, and you plant those seeds in the back of their mind, so that if in this scenario, I'm looking for you to perform this way, I'm looking for you to do X, Y, Z, I'm looking for you to engage with the customer by doing 1, 2, 3. There are predictable moments in every business that, on one hand, a leader could just, hey, let's just wait. Let's just wing it and wait and see what our team does. Or really, you can pre-script these and practice these moments. You can go over it in a consistent basis of, hey, remember, in this scenario, I want you to do 1, 2, 3. This scenario, I'm looking for you to do X, Y, Z in this way. And a lot of times these directors, they'd say, I'm really looking for the style of it to look like 1, 2, 3. I'm picturing this and this. And they'll lay out that picture in front of the camera operators, and they're looking for that nod and that agreement for the camera operator to go, yep, I got you. I'll take care of it there in that scenario, and I'll be looking for it. And so it begins to make me ask the question, in your corporate environment, what are the scenarios that are predictable? What are the engagements that you know are going to happen in the course of your game that you can pre-script? Not the training as you hired that person. They can only remember so much of that. But remember, the director would meet with these camera operators before every single game. And they're probably the same camera operators that director worked with the game prior, and they'll work with the game afterwards. And so it's this redundancy of planting these seeds of not only as a leader what you expect, so now you can inspect what you expect. So you've planted the seeds ahead of time so that you've laid out, in this scenario, I'm looking for X, Y, Z. So that now, as your team is in that place and you've planted those seeds over a consistent period of time, they may not get it. The new camera operators, they don't get it early on, and they need these little reminders. They need little reminders in game, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. But if you, as you lay out these seeds, here's the empowerment aspect of it. So now, as the camera operators living in the moment, they know the parameters that you're looking for. Now it's no longer robotic. Now they're able to think and be free in that moment. And that's really the ultimate goal that we're looking for with all of our team, is that they're not just clicking the task boxes on their SOPs, their standard operating procedure, but they're really stepping into their role. They're stepping into the greatness of who they are. And that's what we want meetings to accomplish, not to weigh them down and for us to, here's the real flip side. Because I had all these directors from up in New York and that kind of thing, and they come in with all this ego, and they a lot of times they were often yellers, and they would yell at the camera operators. And if you come to your team with too much authority, then all you're going to get is the baseline, because that's all they ever got out of their camera operators, was just the baseline, just because they just wanted to get through that broadcast. But the leaders, the directors, like the great Dave Burchett from the Texas Rangers, he directed, Emmy Award winning, directed for over 30 years. I remember one time I forgot to shoot the runner coming around third and touching home base. And he just whispered into the mic. He said, "Hey, camera 3, remember to catch the runner going around third so I can show him hitting home base." And even though everybody could hear it, he acted like he was whispering it just to me. That was a memorable moment because it didn't humiliate me. It didn't belittle me in any way. Even though I was a young camera operator at that time, he empowered me, and I will never forget that moment. He brought humanity to that scenario, so now I will never forget that scenario. I will never forget that assignment in that moment. And that, as your leader, no matter what your meeting style is, if you bring humanity, then you'll bring the greatness out of your team members, just like Clara said. And so I encourage you to pre-script the moments. Don't have a meeting just to have a meeting, but if you do, use these reminders. And remember, in this situation, remember to do this, this, and this. Don't use it as a way of just flexing your authority, because all you're going to do is belittle your team, and you're just going to get the bare minimum out of them. Bring the greatness out of your team by allowing them to be who they are, who you hired them to be. But you do that by setting the expectations in front of them, of saying, this is what I'm looking for in this scenario. Now, if they don't do it correctly, guess what? It's a predictable moment. They're going to have that scenario again. It's not the end of the world. There's going to be another broadcast. There's going to be another game. So just teach them. That's called leadership. Lead them to the greatness that you're looking for. And you do it through bringing humanity, these friendly little reminders of not coming down with a hammer, but saying, hey, remember next time, this is really what we're looking for in that situation. And you know,